Welcome back. This is the last section of Chapter 5 on simple interest. And we're going to start out with just an example problem or a scenario talking about wondering if you have ever dreamed about buying your first car. We're on page 290 in your book if you want to follow along. It says, suppose you want to buy a used car and the cost of that car is $4,000. You're going to pay $400 down before you drive the car off the lot, and the rest of the money you're going to borrow from the bank, which is $3,600. To pay off the loan, you will pay $131.50 every month for the next 36 months. Two questions. How much money will you pay in all for the car, and how much will it cost you to borrow the money for the car? Okay, so the first question, how much money will you pay for the car in all? Well, there's $400 that you pay up front, and then that $131.50 you're going to pay every month for 36 months. So that one is going to be $4,734. When you take that monthly payment times 36 months, that's what you end up paying. So that number plus the 400 gives us $5,134. Now we can use that number to help us answer question 2. How much will it cost you to borrow the money? Well, the car was only $4,000 to begin with, but you ended up paying $5,134. So the difference in those two numbers when you subtract them is $1,134. So you ended up paying that much money in interest just to borrow that money. Interest is the amount of money that you pay or the amount of money that you earn when you use money. Obviously, it's better to earn money, to invest your money and earn interest on it than to pay someone else interest to borrow their money. And the formula that we are going to use when we solve problems with simple interest is this formula right here. I equals P times R times T. I is interest, and that's the amount of money. That's always in dollars and cents. P is the principal. It's the amount that you borrow or the amount that you invest. R is the rate, and that's a decimal form, and it's always an annual interest rate. And T is time, which is always written in years. Very important to make sure you understand what the units are on those. So here's an example. Find the simple interest for $500 invested in a savings account at 3.25% for 3 years. So the principal amount, we're going to take $500 and invest it. We're going to earn a rate of 3.25%. Remember, we need to change that to decimal to get rid of that percent. And the time in years is 3 years. So 500 times 0.0325 times 3 gives us $48.75. So that's the amount of interest we earn on the $500 over 3 years. Here's an opportunity for you to pause the video, see if you can figure out the two of these on your own using that interest equals principal times rate times time. And I'll show you the answers when you come back. All right, I hope you had a chance to take a look at those. The principal on this one is 400. The rate is 3.67%. So as a decimal, that'll be 0.0367, and the time is 2 years, giving us an answer of $29.36 over those 2 years. On the right-hand side, principal is $770. Our rate in decimal will be 0.16. Now here's the tricky part. 6 months is 6/12 of a year. Remember, that has to be in years. So you could use 6/12 or 1/2, giving you $61.60. Make sure your answers are reasonable. When you come down here and get an answer, usually you're not going to earn more money than you invest, so make sure your answers are reasonable. What's the total amount of money owed on a credit card with a balance of $1,500 at a simple interest rate of 22% after 1 month? Okay, principal rate time, the principal's $1,500. The rate in decimal will be 0.22. And the tricky part on this one is the time. Remember, the time is in years, but they give us the time in months. So 1 month over here, there's a converting unit thing. 1 month is 1/12 of a year. So we're going to use the fraction 1/12 instead of 1 year. Multiplying those together, we take 1,500 times 0.2, and then remember, if this is in the denominator, we can just divide by 12. So our interest works out to be $27.50. Okay. The total amount owed then is the $1,500 to begin with, but then we have to pay that interest as well. So the total amount is the sum of those two are added together, 1,527.50. Okay, pause the video and try this one on your own, and we'll give you the answer in a minute. All right, this one says, what is the total amount of money in dollars in an account where $95 is invested at a simple interest rate of 7.5% for 8 months? Principal is 95, rate 0.075, time is 8/12. Okay, plug those into your formula, and you get an interest of $47.50. So the total amount in the account is $47.50 plus the initial investment of $95 for a total of $142.50. Student loans. Jose's brother Luis makes monthly payments of $290.28 on his student loan of $5,000. He will pay off his loan in 1.5 years. Find the simple interest rate of his loan. So first we got to find out the total that he's going to pay. All right, and the total he's going to pay is going to be that $290.28 over a year and a half. Now a year and a half is 18 months, and so we end up with $5,225.04. Okay, so he pays that for 18 months, that same monthly rate. So there's the total that he paid. The amount that he's going to pay in interest then is the difference between the initial amount that he owed and what he actually paid, which is $225.04. Okay, so this one we're kind of working backwards. We know what the principal amount was. We could figure out what he paid in full over that amount of time, and then we can subtract those two to find out how much of that was interest. So we know the interest now is $225.04. The principal was $5,000. We know the time is 1.5 years. Whenever we use this formula, we have to use the time in years. I know up here the time was 18 months because this was given as a monthly payment. Okay, so the months were okay there because we had a monthly payment. So plugging these into the formula, we have $225.04 equals the $5,000 principal. We're looking for the rate, and the time is a year and a half. Okay, so we need to get R by itself. First I'm going to multiply these two numbers that are with R. 5,000 times 1.5 is 7,500, and that's still multiplied times R. Now we need to get R by itself, so we need to undo that multiplication, and we do that by dividing by whatever it's multiplied by. Since R is multiplied by 7,500, we need to divide by 7,500. And whatever we do on one side, we must do on the other side of an equation. All right, this leaves us with R equal to 0.03. Now that's the decimal form. We need to change it to a percent, which means moving the decimal 2 to the right, which gives us 3%. All right, Louis purchased a $200 savings bond. After 5 years, it is worth $232.50. Find the simple interest rate for his bond. All right, so we have $200 is the principal. We know what it's worth after 5 years, so we're going to need to figure out how much of that was interest. So same kind of a process. Why don't you pause the video and see if you can figure this one out. Very similar to the last slide. All right, I hope you had some time to try to work on that. Bring your answer to class on this one. I noticed I have that way down here at the bottom of the slide, so I'm not going to give you the answer this time, so hopefully you had a chance to work on that, and I'll give you the answer in class. See you next time.